the mid and the small caps, how are you looking at these two spaces? Is there enough to legroom to really start, buying if you've still not bought into these spaces despite the fact that they're at record levels?
See, what we personally believe that there is a lot of scope in the mid cap and the small cap space, but somebody has to be really has to be really very cherry picking in these spaces of the market, because what is happening if you see in the mid cap and small cap spaces is many of the companies, if you see on the real estate ancillaries, maybe the pipe companies or the adhesive companies, if you see these, when the raw material prices were moving up, these companies have passed on a sizable amount of the raw material price hike to the end consumer. And currently, what we are witnessing is the inflation is cooling up, which is ultimately the raw material prices of most of the end products have also cooled off. Prices remain the same. If you see, a lot of these companies are going through a gross margin expansion. So one has to be very tricky and very cautious while choosing the mid cap space. But I think there are a lot of scope in the mid cap and small cap areas where a lot of cherry picking will keep happening from these levels.
Okay, understood that. Any particular themes that you believe investors should be bullish on, keeping in mind for the rest of the financial year 2024?
See, two of the sectors or themes I am really bullish on is I am very bullish on the real estate side. And more, my whole hypothesis why real estate as a whole is because we are seeing that we are witnessing that there is a huge migration of people from the rural to the urban areas
Okay.
due to a good job opportunity or maybe for a better standard of living. Second, we are looking that Indian, Indian people are moving from a traditional way of living to a more nuclear family or state of living. And third is the India rising per capita income, where we are currently at $2,300, and we are talking about $4,000 maybe 3 years, 5 years down the line, while the economy will also move from a $3.5 trillion economy to a $5 trillion economy. Once these three states looks at that, there will be more demand for affordable housing, or there will be more demand for housing as a whole. But if you see the real estate companies, every time there is an apprehension on the corporate governance level, there is an apprehension that most of the real estate companies are highly leveraged, or there is always the balance sheet are not clean enough. So the best way to participate in this real estate sector is to buy real estate ancillary companies. So companies on the paint side, on the adhesive side, or maybe on the pipe side. If you see the companies in the real estate ancillary sides on the pipe, paint, and adhesive side, most of the companies, the balance sheets are very clean. The corporate governance levels are on a higher standard. And most of the companies in this space has almost negligible debt or debt-free companies. If you see these companies, the raw material prices also cooling off, as I told you before, and the gross
Right.
margin expansion has happened for in most of these companies anywhere between 100 bips to 400 bips. So I personally believe companies in this sector will bound to do well.
Okay.
Second sector where we feel we are a bit bullish is the FMCG sector. If you see the FMCG sector over the last financial year, most of the growth in the FMCG companies has come from the urban economy of the side, and the rural economy hasn't participated, or the rural people hasn't participated into enough buying. Now, what has happened is inflation going up, and the wages hasn't gone up in that way. So one way the cost of goods have gone up, and the wages hasn't got hiked in the same fashion. With We are coming to an election year, and government thrust is very high towards rural spending. They have increased the MSP prices of the kharif crops. We are looking that there will be a normal monsoon going forward. And being the election year and the government spending in the rural areas, I think there will be a lot of money in the hands of people, and that's where the spend will come. And so, looking at good monsoon, rural spending going to go up, and the government thrust towards rural in the election year, I feel this is one of the sector which has to be looked on from these levels.
Okay.
And
Okay.
again,
Understood. Yeah.
yeah, sorry. And again, the same thing is in this sector also, when now the commodity prices have started cooling off, there will be again a cross margin expansion in most of these companies. And hence, there will be an upside in the areas.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share, and subscribe.